Okay, let's jump straight into it. So to start off with the DXY, just because obviously we had a bit of news out overnight. Um, so just before we get to the DXY, I'll have a look a little bit at that news. So the big ones that sort of came out overnight mainly was the ECB was the big one that everyone was looking for. And as you can see, pretty much as expected in that. I mean, there's no idea that, well, there wasn't really any thought that they're sort of even considering cutting at the moment, so obviously it wasn't going to come down. And I think everybody's pretty much understood that, that's the conversation to be had, cuts and when a cut's coming. So the idea of it going up, that wasn't really much of a possibility either. So coming in flat is pretty much as expected with the market. I think the main thing is that people wanted to see the press conference, which came out sort of half an hour afterwards. And from all accounts, it wasn't really anything shocker new with what Lagarde, I think her name is, sort of had to say. So, we saw a little bit of a flying around with like the euro. Obviously, that was the main one impacted with it all. But in terms of the rest of the market, it didn't really do a great deal. Like, at least sort of during that period, there was a bit of a reaction afterwards because we had some other data that obviously came out with the US. But I think people were expecting to sort of hear some solid, rate cuts have been pushed back, kind of thing, and that would have strengthened up the euro and sort of pushed DXY down, or sort of like hey, it's we're still on track to be cutting at X, XYZ dates or whatever sooner, and obviously that would have given a weaker sort of reaction with the euro. But none of those really came. They sort of said, look, we're still going to do like it's just the same wording as always. Yeah, we're going to do what needs to be taken, needs to be done. We're going to use the tools, which is the rates and that, and we still believe we're going to achieve the target in a more or less timely manner. I mean, not really too much to unpack from that. So the impact of that was actually pretty subdued in that, but you did see the DXY sort of take off afterwards. We had a bit of the data out here. As you can see, we had some GDP came in quite a bit stronger. I mean, obviously down on what it was, but not down by as much. So it's kind of like when you have those stocks and they're expecting bad numbers and they're bad, but they're not as bad as we thought they were going to be. And you actually see a positive move on it all. It had a bit of a mixed things with the other bits of data coming out. Durable goods sort of missed, sort of slowed right down there, and this goes in line with a lot of the US data that we've seen sort of coming out more recently, like the manufacturing numbers as well, and unemployment claims up a little bit there as well. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag of stuff, but the reaction with the market. Um, was one of sort of like this is on a 4 hour. You can see the overall reaction, but this sort of little big double wick sort of doji thing, long wick doji thing here. That's when the ECB was coming out and having a talk. And once all that sort of subdued, then it kind of sort of you can see the DXY sort of kind of really just took off. So it's really sort of choppy up through here. I mean, this seems to be the theme of the year so far, particularly with DXY and also the markets as well. But it's just this grind, choppiness, up into the next range, grind, choppiness. We did get, as I said, that sort of retest at the top side of this. So, it is sort of certainly coming up here. And that reaction, I thought this may have been a bit of a failed. And throughout sort of Asia and Europe and that yesterday, we were seeing that. We were seeing the US dollar sort of like obviously it bounced off the PMI numbers, and then it was starting to roll over and come back down. But of course, bang, another leg pushing up. So look, it's a bit hard to sort of say. The main ones that I sort of said, clear this up a little bit. The main areas that I wanted to see taken out are, let's move this, where we go? As I said, this wick down here. So we've got this little zone area here and up here. They're the two areas that I believe are going to be the sort of the confirmations as to where we're going next. We have broken that sort of channel coming up here, but as you can see, it hasn't really sort of committed to the downside with this break, and it's actually fired back on twice. So I would say that's enough to sort of say there's kind of back up in that range at the moment. So where to from here? Again, we've got some more US data coming out tonight. Where are we at? Core PCE numbers expected to tick up just a little bit here. So I think if these do come in a little bit stronger, that'll probably sort of strengthen the dollar a little bit more. So it's a euro. No, here we go. Which could give it that push past these sort of most previous highs here. And alternatively, like, on the flip side of that is if it does sort of come down, if it does come in a little bit weaker, I think that sort of like we could see a little bit more of a roll on and potentially a little bit more of a sort of carry, a sort of grind sideways here. I think now's the time for it to go though. If it's going to go, I think it's really got to push up because if it comes down now, I mean we've had sort of lower highs previously and obviously fired back into it, but there's only so many times it can fire back into it. So I think sort of if it's going to break out, it needs to break out now into the end of the week. This 104 is going to be a very interesting area. As you can see, there's quite a big sort of congestion area up around here. And even if you take it a little bit longer here, I think the sort of early 104s, 104 to 104.20, will be the sort of the big area. But if you do pop out the top side, 104.50 does have a little bit of history with that price there where sellers tried to sort of knock it back down as well. So I think they're the sort of two top side sort of targets, if you like. Or where I'd expect the sellers to start to come in back strong. So it does sort of limit it a fair bit as well if you think about this. If you are a dollar bull and you think the selling is going to come in quite strong here, which there's no doubt going to be a reaction. Not to say that this is going to be a top of this whole move if it does go to the top side, but you are going to get a reaction here. You're going to get the people that have been short all the way down through here. They're going to have their stops around here, maybe take out the stops and then selling come back in and sort of push down a little bit. But we'll have to sort of wait and see how it sort of ticks on. We've got, what time are we at now? It's 11:48, so we've got DXY just coming online now, a little bit of a sort of a peek into what's going to happen with it all. And it looks like a tiny little sort of gap up, but nothing really to write home about. So I think sort of if we sort of drag these out, a bit more of a short-term trend coming through here. This one here. Asia's been a little bit of a sort of funny session, as you can see yesterday. Sort of this was Asia sort of dribbling down and then sort of fires back up. US, they seem to be loving to buy it. This was Asia through here, coming down. US, bang, they loved it. This was obviously news driven, but still within the US session, they buy it up. So Asia sells down. Euro kind of bit flat, but generally it typically is anyway. And then they buy it up. So given that, I could see potentially a little bit of short-term weakness on USD. And then obviously we've got that data coming up tonight. So that will either give us our sort of break and we'll push up to the top side, or a bit of a failure and we'll still come back down to the bottom side here. I am still in the camp of sort of, DXY sort of moving to the downside, but you can't argue with this, with these kind of reactions, particularly this one here. This is what I was saying last week, that this is the area, the 102.70 area, that I wanted to see what was going to happen, and we got our answer. It exploded back up. Yes, it was like news driven, but it's always just a bit funny when these things come in, just perfect timing with the news and also the technical level. So obviously sort of people pushing these things around know what they're doing with it all. All right, move on with gold. Gold actually took a position in last night. As I said yesterday, if we got back above that sort of 2020 level, this area here, I'd take a little position. I did, and bang, like, up for a few minutes, and then bang, back down, stopped out. And as you can see, it's still fighting to regain that 2020 level there. But that's the name of the game. It's been such a, honestly, it's been such a, you know, really frustrating but humbling kind of week because typically I'm very short term in and out. That's why a lot of my charts are like I'll get the general sort of theme and direction of sort of what's going on. I'll trade that direction, but I'll be picking my entries. I'm in and out sort of multiple times with multiple positions throughout the session. I'm not generally one to sort of like buy and hold all the way through, but I'm trying a little bit more of that sort of positioning at the moment. But this is probably, well, it's definitely not the time to be doing it because, as you can see, the market is just up and down, up and down, up and down. This is very much my sort of wheelhouse. This is kind of like, you can take 10 or 15 buck moves on gold and then you're out, you're done. Don't have to think about it. You can sleep and then come back and do it all the next day. I'm trying to sort of trade at them all. These sort of trades are kind of a little bit more, obviously when things are trending. So you buy and hold, but anyway, this is all just sort of getting a handle of it all. But realistically, the in and out chopping change, that's where I make my money. So anyway, back onto this with gold, trying to regain this 2020 level. We know that there's a pretty crucial sort of area for it. Like obviously you can see how marked out it is. Um, and pretty much these zones are still sort of holding all the way through. You could see even once we got through this 2020, this is where we clipped it here, bang, back down. Even this morning, we had a little bit of a spike. It's always a bit odd when you get these, what is this, sort of like a $5, $6 spike just on open. Obviously sold straight back down into, but it's just interesting to sort of see those things as they fly and open up. But again, these levels, they seem to be holding somewhat. You could probably widen this one out just a little bit now, because you know the sellers came in a little bit earlier here. If we drag this across, actually, we can see that, they are just coming in marginally lower each time. These things can be quite subtle sometimes, but you are seeing sort of, 39, 38, 36, or close to 37. So each time the pushes are coming just a little bit weaker. Maybe that was a little bit of a tell, because we were seeing this was just before the US PMI numbers, that we were seeing other things running, but gold kind of had a bit of a clue and it wasn't really doing much, and then bang, obviously slammed down from it all. So yeah, it was interesting, and particularly with gold, we saw a couple of things like copper and silver yesterday. Up until the ECB last night, they'd made back 100% of this move, back up to the top. Copper was above, silver was pretty much right up there, but they pretty much undone this whole move, while at the same time, gold was just sitting down here at 2013. I got a little bit of a push around that sort of US data and ECB kind of stuff, and as I said, like above 2020, I said, look, I'm happy to give it another go here. Came back, did a little, if you can see here, broke through, did the little back retest. I'm like, all right, this is good. We're on top of it, and then bang, obviously, here's what it is. But again, look, levels are still the same. We did see that little reaction from that 2009 area that we picked out the other day, saying, okay, look, this could be a little bit of a bottom area here. Reaction was quite strong. Had you sort of orders sitting down in here, but I still think that really, we are just in a complete sort of grind sideways. You can't say, oh yeah, gold's going up, gold's going down. We are getting sort of slightly lower highs up the top end of it all, and obviously we've dropped significantly down to the lower side of this whole range, actually out the bottom of the range that it had been in. But if we can sustainably hold above 2020 and 2025, then I think the conversation can go back into this area as we sort of saw prior to it all. The lows are coming down here around the 24 area, highs coming in high 30s, and this was the sort of upper end of the range. So basically we're just swinging and we're doing the same, but just down in this area here now between 2012 and 2024. So take out the wick highs from this morning's open, so 25 and above, and I think that's going to be your conversation between 36 and 25, that little $10 range or thereabouts range through there. Again, sort of, gold, as long as it's above 2003, is still viable. I think under 2003, it's going to see quite a quick meltdown. I think 1980 was the next sort of major zone for buyers, and that about below there. And realistically, till you can take out these wick highs, which we can sell, the selling here is quite strong. So, this is the area where you're going to have to really deal with it. I'd say sort of like, above sort of like 20, call it 2040, to really sort of say, okay, maybe this is a buy and hold. Till then, chop and change, in and out. I think that's the play. We go across to Aussie. Aussie is the sort of main source of the frustration, of course. That's the main thing that I trade. But yeah, again, look, it's doing the same. You can see, like, buyers are sitting here time and time again. Sellers are sitting here time and time again. Looks like it's going, falls flat on its face. It's been doing it all week. And again, this is the thing. It's sort of like, this is not the time to change up the style. This isn't the time to go, you know what, I'm going to be a buy and hold trader, because, why? Till it's broken out. And this is the thing. I mean, there's a fair call to be made that, there was not yesterday, the day before, that we had these sort of moves just before the PMI numbers with Aussie, because, we'd seen this is the sort of the high of the week was around this 6013 number, sold down. 6013 number, sold down. Came up here, closed to, well, there's a 30-minute candle, I suppose, but closed to 1 hour at the top side here. And that it's not a massive close, but it is a high close. It's not, it hadn't been immediately sold down, but of course that news then bang smacked it back on its nose. So it's look, that's a fair, reasonable sort of idea to sort of say, okay, you could buy and hold these ones, but realistically, this is a 40-50 point range, and you can make good money. 40-50 points, buy and hold every morning, every Asia session. As I said, they've been selling US dollar, they've been buying Aussie, and it's just been pushing up just to get smacked down later on. But I think coming into the end of the week now, we've obviously got a bit of a sort of a floor here with the buyers. We're getting this sort of larger sort of downward channel, larger downward channel that's really playing out down here. And we can see that it's really pinching into this area here. So we know that these ones, I mean, typically sort of like, you'd probably expect it to sort of flow with the direction that it came from. But, as you can see, RSI is like sitting right in the middle there at 50. We're coming down into this little pinch area here. So where we are. This is the idea, again, sort of like, if we can get another close, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. If we can get a fifth attempt out of here, back down, and then go. Maybe that's going to be the time that we actually get the hold, but it's hard to sort of commit to anything because obviously we're coming off quite a heavy sort of sell down. Risk sentiment in the market seems pretty strong. I mean, you look at the equity markets, they are just flying, but, Aussie is kind of decoupled from that in the last couple of weeks, or so far this whole of this year, because they've been right pushing on the tops, and Aussie's just been hammered and sold right down and sort of lagging at the bottom. So it's hard to sort of like use that too much as an indicator. So you just got to go off what you're sort of seeing here. And I think realistically, if we come out the bottom here, look, honestly, if we take out the wicks, then it's smoked. Like, there's no chance here. We're going to go back down, sort of continuing down these kind of levels down here. You'd have to work out some horizontals for your targets there. But I think I said the other day, I think it was around the 64.70s or so. That was the next sort of main area down there. But the here and now is to see what happens when you get to the end of this triangle. Markets, RSI is flat. It's coming in. It's holding its floor. Buyers have stepped up just a little bit now, only a couple of points, but up a little bit. I think if we can get one more push towards this high above 66, it's a bit of an ask because every time it's done, it's got slapped on the face. But one more push through there will take it outside this channel. Little back test through 66 one more time. And maybe away we go. It's as I keep saying, sort of, I still think that the upside's quite limited with Aussie because I think you're going to run straight into this wall up here, 66.40. And this is the thing, sort of, a couple of my positions, I was only looking for like, around that sort of, I think I had a high 30s just to sort of, take the profit before it came into this zone, or at least on partials. But, we got to 20 or whatever it was, and then just bang, smack back down. So anyway, without sort of rabbiting on about the same sort of stuff, it's ranging. We're waiting for the range to break. Below, I'd say below 60. So actually, no, take the lows there. Yeah, pretty much below sort of 65.60. Above 66.20, that's going to see your direction. We've got a bit of support directly underneath it. We've got a bit of resistance just above it. So seems to be a fairly subdued sort of market at the moment. So not a great deal to sort of report with it. If we flick along to copper, this was yesterday. I said, look, I think we've still got some upside to come, and bang, we got a big explosion taken off here. Hasn't come up because obviously, like everything else, got smacked on the nose. But again, it's started to shore itself up a little range now. I think if it can hold this lower end here, which is attempting to do at the moment, it does sort of hold the reason that we could sort of get back up into this area. And realistically, this is the three directions, the three sort of potential playouts that I sort of think will sort of come in the next couple of sessions. But yeah, as I said, you've still got to take out yesterday's wick. We've got a little bit of room to move on the RSI, so I could definitely still see some upside on it. But the daily did close doji slightly bearish, so it does tilt it or skew it a little bit more to the downside kind of idea of things. But yeah, we'll have to sort of wait and see. And I think this is realistically the only reason that the Aussie may be sort of holding up a little bit at the moment, because quite frankly, Aussie's just been trading very flat, very sort of sideways. But while DXY is just still pushing to the top side, we're still holding flat as well, really. Whereas typically I would have expected Aussie, just people love to sell Aussie. So that's one of the ones that I would have expected to really just sort of get crushed a bit more. And finally, just across on China, quite a strong reaction yesterday. After that, look, jump down onto the four hour here. So as you can see, I thought we would have got a bit more of a reaction from this zone, but just decided to power on through. So let's get rid of these ones. And see what's going to happen here. So I'll fix that up. So you could still call this, that wasn't the line that I had originally for that little channel, but if we sort of bring it out a little bit, it's probably sort of got more connections if we bring it up a little bit, and we have seen it pop to the top side here. You are running into the bottom of this previous support area, obviously hence the little bit of a sell back here. RSI is a little bit into the higher area, and it's starting to sort of somewhat roll over. Doesn't mean that it can't just then go and charge through to the top side, but again, it sort of like skews it more in the favor of a sort of a bit of a rollover from this level down here. Apart from that, I think I can't really sort of pick a great deal. I mean, this is quite a steep sort of bounce that it's sort of come up through here. Put it onto a sort of one, we might be able to see something a little bit more. I think that could be a nice little short-term range, short-term sort of channel that it seems to be respecting. Yeah, so I'd be pretty happy with that. I mean, yes, it sort of comes through this sort of falling resistance, but I think that kind of somewhat comes a little bit obsolete when you've sort of blown out to the bottom side so much of it all. Drag that up a bit. But yeah, I think this little channel is sort of what I'd be sort of thinking to run off at the moment. So again, we're coming into a higher time frame resistance area. So it is starting to push down a little bit. Obviously, this last little push up here, if you look at this, this is only on a 1 hour, but it is there. You've got a negative divergence with that. So this again is probably half the reason that you're sort of seeing a little bit of a little bit of a slowdown here. Yeah, so let's make that a bit brighter. This one here. Yeah, whatever. Cool. So this high to this high, matching up as you can see, this high and this high here in the RSI. Next push up, and it hasn't quite come up with the same push here. And this is why you started to see a little bit of a push back down to the bottom side over here. I think sort of through this falling resistance, you got to look at those little swing lows there. So this is just a smaller zone. This is only 1 hour, so you can't really sort of bank a great deal on, but that would be the little bit of the range that you'd be looking for. So I think some downside early Asia here, which goes in line with pretty much what we've sort of seen on the other ones that they sort of have been selling US dollar in Asia sessions, and then they fire it up in the US sessions. So certainly, I think we've probably got some more downside to come with China. Overall, it is trying to sort of fight on here, we can see. But these. Yeah, so we can see that, look, obviously this is the area that we were looking at, and we wanted to see the close down under here. Obviously, it's found its little bit of support with the buys, and this is what I would say, this is the reason that you sort of look at the previous action. This is where they were selling it, this is where they're buying it. Comes back down, they've just had another shot. Okay, let's buy it again. It doesn't mean that these things will hold forever, but it's just sort of going that, look, given sort of how the market has priced it, for whatever reason, with however many people are buying, selling these things, this is the point in which they've looked at it and they've gone, yeah, I'll buy it here. So it stands to reason they get another chance to buy it. If they think it is going higher, well, they've got another chance to buy it right here. And that's what they've done. They've sort of reacted and pushed it back up. Unable to close underneath this zone, has shown quite a sort of a decent, strongish kind of bounce for it all there. But it doesn't mean it's going to hold forever. So it means if you come back down here again, they're probably not going to go, well, we bought it yesterday or 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and gave it another shot. It's come back down here again. Well, the sellers are overpowering the buyers, and there's a good chance that these people that were buying here won't want to buy it again so quickly because they're like, well, the selling is just relentless. It's coming at it again, and you come at a second time quickly. That's when you're going to pop through, and you're probably going to see so you'll see a couple of these positions unwind. You'll see the selling that's pushing it down continue, and then maybe they'll try and buy it down at the next area where you can see that sort of people have been trying to buy it and they've been trying to hold it. So if you break through this top area here, this is where you'll be looking. And this is a very crucial area. So this will be very strong because then you go to higher time frames and you see, okay, where have people bought it recently? If they break underneath 711, 711.5 or so, you know, and get it closed down here around sort of sub 710, which is what I've said, and this is why we've got the alarm set there, then that's going to sort of really be the signal for further selling and weakness to the downside here. At the moment, the reaction's been quite strong. So, you know, the idea that I just played out here, the buyers here, and then close down here. Again, that's sort of forethinking. But we have seen break of the channel. And this is what another thing that I say, when you break out of the channel, you come back, you've retested your breakout point, which is this area over here. So to me, I want to see this 715 taken out. And then really, I think there's going to be a lot of sort of support coming in at the 712 area, even if we do take that out. But again, the next step after that is to get down underneath the 710. All right, cool. That's it from me.